It's a good time for a retail sales conversation. Today, we're going to talk with Paulina and get a handle on what that could look like for 2024. So stay tuned for the opening bell. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
How's it going?
Great. How are
Good.
you?
Look at Paulina's new background.
I'm in a new location today.
What? Stop the this just in. Unbelievable.
Do you know, Paulina, do you travel with your plant behind you?
Always.
Okay.
It's a priority.
I love
heard
it.
that.
Gives
I
me
heard
good luck.
Well, good. So it's holiday travel time for sure. So that's good. It's glad to see you're enjoying. I hope some family and friends. That's awesome. Good.
Yep.
All right.
Calling to you from Philadelphia this week. So
Okay. Is that hometown more or less? Is that where you grew up?
yeah, I grew up right outside of Philly, just about 45 minutes outside of the city, and this is where home is.
Cool.
So I love visiting during the holidays
Yeah.
and hanging out with family and friends.
Awesome. Are you a Eagles fan?
Of course.
Of
Of course.
course. That's the only team I picked yesterday that won. I picked Kansas City, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. And the other two dropped eggs, and Philly made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Hooray.
I was friends with two guys. One was Eagles, one was the Patriots, and it was just war on one of the Super Bowls.
Oh,
it
my
was
God.
really fun. Yeah, it was really fun.
Crazy. Okay, let's get to it, Ma. What do you say? We want to get Paulina back to the family.
All right.
So retail sales, always a big topic. Obviously, it's apropos because of the holidays. Everyone's out there spending all kinds of money. I did notice longer checkout lines at the grocery store the other day, but to be expected. Tell us a little bit about where we want to go here first with retail sales. What's the breakdown of the latest results for the season? Would you say, Paulina?
Yes, so there was a consumer spending report that came out today from MasterCard earlier this week, and that offers some insights into some of the trends we might be seeing in 2024 in terms of how consumers are going to be spending their money. So I wanted to break that data down to offer traders and investors some context around the news. So let's break down the numbers. So the U.S. retail sales from the period between November 1st through December 24th increased 3.1% on a year-over-year basis. And bringing that down further, online retail sales grew 6.3% year-over-year, while in-store sales rose just over 2% over the same period. So spending online is increasing at a much faster pace than in-store sales, but shopping in-store still makes up a much larger portion of total retail spending.
Okay.
But that was a huge disparity there. Now, breaking it down by category, apparel was one of the top categories, with that sector growing 2.4% year over year. But the restaurant sector was up 7.8% year over year. And I think this is an important disparity to highlight, because this makes it very clear that consumers are prioritizing shopping on experiences rather than goods, which is a trend that we've seen all year, and one that is probably going to continue in the future as well. So that's the breakdown of the hard numbers.
Okay, so let's go back to that restaurant number. That was interesting. So that we're considering that an experience, obviously, right? That was up. You said, was it 7.8% year over year? Did I get that right?
Yes, 7.8%.
Okay, so that's massive. I guess I'm not surprised, but the only thing that would surprise me, I suppose, is that every time I go out to a dinner, it costs me $100 a head for the bill, right, or more. And it's not like I'm going to the world's greatest, fanciest restaurants either. It's just always like that. So that surprises me because it's so expensive to go out to eat now.
And when people are stepping out of the world this holiday season, how much of it, like Lex is saying, to make sure the family has a great time, how much of this is being done on credit, and what does that mean for compared to inflation, and how is that working?
Yeah, I think those are two really good points. So first of all, everything seems more expensive because we're still experiencing elevated inflation. Inflation has moderated throughout the year, but it's still high. And so in order to finance those everyday purchases, consumers are finding it a lot easier to put those things on credit cards, whether it be, your grocery shopping or anything, if you're buying clothes or whatever, electronics, what have you. So in order to kind of finance those everyday services, people are using credit cards because it's just a lot easier. But the impact of that is they're raking up their credit, and if they don't, make those payments on time on a monthly basis, they can accumulate, and it's going to be more difficult for consumers to make their monthly payments. So that, as a result, is just making credit balloon. And if those debts are unsustainable, then it can lead to higher delinquency rates.
And then I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's all these little micro loans. So companies like Affirm and, where you can you're buying like less than $250 and they'll say, pay this in 4 payments or over 12 payments. So I feel like that's really coming online, and that seems to be easier to jump into credit, which may be a dangerous thing on a larger scale. Any opinions on that?
Go ahead, Paul.
I would say that, it's obviously more of a feature when you go out, to check out. You always see, this $500 purchase, 4 installments of whatever.
Yeah.
Over time, it can make the purchase maybe a little bit more appealing, because you don't have to pay that money up front. You do it in a series of payments. But I don't, from what I've been hearing, I don't think it's that much of a difference. I think consumers are just putting that full charge on their credit card, because over the past year, wages have grown, but obviously not at the same pace as inflation. So consumers do feel comfortable putting a little bit more of that credit card debt onto their balance sheets. But again, if it's not something that they are paying down on a monthly basis, then it can be worrisome for these creditors.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting about the Affirm point, Mal. I saw that it comes up on every time you shop online.
Yeah.
It's one of the choices, like Shopify, your Amazon account, pay for it at the checkout, Affirm.
Right.
And I don't think they charge you interest if you make it in 4 or whatever payment period you decide, right? So
I think there's multiple companies, multiple options. Some do charge. I think it's based on your credit, so they do a little, micro check, and I that is a huge opening, and so, and I feel like it can build, little bit by little bit by little bit, where you have a card, you kind of have this total and a plan, and they do a whole credit check and keeps you kind of safe. So, but again, the positive side is it could be really great for these companies. So a lot of companies are looking down the barrel of paying some of these COVID loans back. A lot of them were you were graced, but those coming online with the holiday season and the Affirm companies, and there's a lot of others. So Sezzle and I won't. There's one I won't say the name of it. That sounds funny. Afterpay, Lich, Green Sky. There's a bunch of companies. So I'm wondering if that kind of keeps the engine and the economy moving, and helps the employees of those companies, make sure that they get their pay raises, and then so we'll have to look at that on a bigger scale. But what do you see happening in the next year, in 2024? What are the returns going to be like in January? What are we expecting as far as consumer spending after the holidays?
Well, I think it's important to look at this latest retail sales report and see what supported the growth this year. So at least in the holiday season. So according to a senior advisor to MasterCard, retailers started promotions earlier this season, and that gave customers some time to find the best deals and promotions, and that gave them the ability to save on purchases. So shoppers are looking for value. And I think that is the key here. But what does that mean? This means that they're not just looking to save money, but more importantly, it's about the shopping experience. Are retailers or consumer-focused companies making it convenient for people to shop? Is it quick? If consumers don't want to go into stores, do they have easy to access online experiences? Analysts believe that companies that can leverage some of these aspects, they're going to be able to better service customers, and ultimately these companies are going to increase their sales over time. So I believe customer facing companies, if they haven't already, they're going to have to reevaluate their business models and make sure that the consumer experience is unique and personalized. And I have a feeling that artificial intelligence is going to play a key role here. So that is kind of what happened in this holiday sales report that gives us some insight into 2024. But specifically what we can expect from consumers next year, we have to turn to what the official government data tells us, because that's what we have available. So what we see from that is inflation has been moderating this year, which is a huge positive, and that inevitably takes some pressure off of consumers. But I think it's important to clarify what this means. Moderating inflation doesn't mean that prices of goods and services are dropping. It means that those prices are still rising, just at a slower pace. And this is why consumers are still feeling their budgets being stretched by the end of the month. So yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. So inflation is, when you say moderating, there's a possibility that they're rising slower than expected, right?
Correct.
Now, when we go the other way and prices actually come down, that's the double whammy fun day, or no?
I believe that's called disinflation. It's not quite deflation yet, but it's disinflation.
So that's like slowly decreasing prices, not like just a wipe yourself out kind of deal. Okay, cool. That's interesting. I said this before to you guys. I think one of my buddies is in the restaurant business, and he said, it's tough to raise prices, but sometimes you're just forced to, right? Costs are up, and you just got to make margin, right? But his comment was, once prices go up, they almost never go back down in his business. Right. It's hard for him to see, reducing prices again. Now,
except if you're Ryan Reynolds on Mint Mobile.
That's right.
I love his commercials. That guy's amazing.
I guess at the end of the day, though, if no one comes to the restaurant and it's empty, you probably have to consider it lowering prices, perhaps, or changing your quality of your food or something. I don't know. But that was interesting. I thought, wow, so I got to pay these big fees to go out to dinner because I go to dinner so much. That stinks.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead, Mom.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I alluded to it earlier, another key issue for consumers, and I don't even know if they're really aware of this, is about their wages. Their average hourly earnings, they're not growing consistent with the Fed's 2% inflation goal, which is why, you go out to eat, you go out to buy groceries, and you feel that, it's just nothing is ever cutting it, even if you think you're getting a good deal on some things.
Right.
But ultimately, in order to bring inflation down, wage growth needs to be at the level that increases with inflation.
Gotcha.
So that's
you bring that up, and one thing I see there is, when you probably will see a consolidation of companies because the smaller guys, to increase wages, if it being smaller, they have less exposure globally for traffic. So to be able to keep up with their employee retaining IP, intellectual property, as well as just giving those raises, compared to the bigger guys who could probably do that in the short run. And so you'll see probably a consolidation of smaller businesses going out of business. And there has been articles about corporate bankruptcies on the rise, that you'll see all that traffic move over to the big guys. And so I would be interested to see how we would support small businesses to make sure that they make it through here. And interesting enough too, you bring up that other topic where there's all sorts of, you want to make sure that the experience of shopping is really good. So we're girls. And if you go shopping on Amazon, I really don't buy clothes. I'm not a big shopper, as Lex will point out, because I only wear 2 shirts. Black and
Well, you wear
white.
3 now because one's gray.
Right.
So you got a
I'm
white
not
one, a
sure.
black one, and a gray one now.
Right.
It's good. You're moving along. That's good.
Right. Or is laundry. I just need to do laundry. Who knows? So, but the try before you buy. So that's a really interesting thing. And I noticed that domestic companies are doing that, because sometimes when girls buy clothes overseas, it's not quite what you see in the picture. So having those kind of mechanisms where you could try it, and if you don't like it, you're never charged, and then you send that back, that might bring business back domestically. So you can really gain the quality, because if you buy something expensive, that's inexpensive, you don't bother with returning it. But the try before you buy really sheds a light on real products when you're buying online and against real images. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Molly. Go ahead.
I think Molly made a really good point about the consolidation piece, because looking into 2024, investors are expecting a few rate cuts next year. So that is ripening the environment for more deal making. So if big companies are looking to acquire smaller companies and consolidate in their industry, I think that this is going to be the time for them to do it next year. So I think we're going to see a pickup in mergers and acquisitions. So I think that's something that investors and traders should be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And that probably feeds in. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit, because what's the show with me without a CT sprinkle?
Here's a CT sprinkle. Wait, hold on. I'm just going to hold on for this one. I feel this is going to be a good one. Go ahead. I'm ready.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
This is probably on Klaus Schwab's game plan of consolidation. So I am always a proponent of supporting your local businesses. And how do we do that? I think Amazon and eBay and all of these great online companies, they have shop locally, so that you can shop within your zip code, which I just became aware of this year. So that's always a neat kind of thing to do.
Did not know that, Mal. Did not know that.
I know.
Yeah. I'm looking for something. I can't find it. Yeah, I didn't know that about Amazon. So yeah, the online thing, though, you guys made some great points. I will say this. I'm an excellent consumer. Really good. Like A+.
Bravo. And get it done.
My habits, though, are I almost will never buy something full price online. Ooh. And I want to qualify online. So the only way I do shopping online is if I get a deal, or what I perceive to be a deal. It might not be a deal, but if the price is $100 and it's like, look at 40% off. I mean, obviously, if I'm in the market for whatever it is, I think I'm buying it at 40% off. And it could be really fair value at $60, and I wouldn't know the difference, but I just feel much better about my 40% off.
You're trying to, yeah. So you're saying the message to companies is place your initial margin at 75% and then knock it down to your normal 30, right?
They may be doing that, and I'm too dumb to figure it out. Okay, it could be possible. Because I swear, I'm like, oh, here comes the delivery guy again to the front door.
Right.
Yep.
I actually asked the delivery guy last week. I said, how many husbands do wives ever tell you to hide from the husbands? She's like, all the time.
That's funny.
Which I really do think women in trading will be a really exciting thing to see as it grows, because trading is shopping. And I think I said this a bit ago, I'm not sure to whom, but I think we've lived in this incredible era where you can get anything you want on your doorstep in like a day. And that, and I mean, I'm looking around rooms and I just have everything I could possibly want. And, and I think this over, consumption, which I think is incredible. We live better than kings did, a while ago, that I think there's going to be a movement, like Paulina says, away from that kind of just packages getting thrown over the gates to experiences. And then the experiences are going to come online. And then I think we're actually going to start to move over to our dollars, our vote, and start to invest behind the scenes of companies, and whether it's a small corporation or a large corporation. And I think we're going to see this whole new movement towards that, and it's going to be really exciting times.
Yeah, no, that's good. I agree with that. Paulina, before we let you go, I know you got to run here. Any big headwinds? I know we talked about the rising credit card debt, which is a possibility. Any other ones that we're not thinking about? Obviously, if the whole world turns over, that's bad too. I get it. But anything that's not as obvious that you can think of that would hurt consumer and the retail spending part of this?
I would say so. The labor market has been strong this year, which is great, and so I think that's a positive backdrop heading into 2024. But I think that if wages don't continue to increase while inflation is still high, that's going to eat into consumers' purchasing power, which is going to make them not spend in certain areas. So consumers, yes, they're spending. They're going to continue to spend on everyday goods and services, but they're going to be more intentional about where they allocate their money. I think they're going to continue to spend on some discretionary items if they can afford them, but they will prioritize experiences, like we said, travel, restaurants, entertainment. But if their wages do not increase with the pace of inflation, that could throw a whole wrench into everything that we talked about.
Got it. Okay.
And we have to ask the question, what happens when there's a default on some of these credit lines? And when one defaults on credit, what does that affect? That affects their ability to rent, to buy, to what else? And is there an increase in defaults? And do you expect to see that in 2024?
Well, if the Federal Reserve increases interest rates, which is probably something that's not going to happen, it's going to make it more difficult for consumers to pay down the debt. But if they cut, that's obviously going to ease that pressure. I don't know if you guys read recently, but the first repayment for the student loan started in October. And I think it was an extravagant amount of, I don't want to quote myself here, but it was like 90% maybe, don't quote me on that, did not pay their student loan debt. So that is, I feel like that's a huge red flag for consumers and the credit companies. And if there's an increase in defaults, that kind of it challenges everybody's assumption that consumer health is resilient. We've been hearing that time and time again this year, but if people aren't paying down their debt, how resilient really is the consumer? And with the consumer taking an increasing majority of the economic, pie of GDP, of economic activity, that's concerning if they're not able to pay down their debt. So it could have a ripple effect in a lot of different areas.
And it's interesting you bring that up. I have an Apple card, and this is like metal, white, coolest card ever.
You get that one too, Mal.
Yeah, it is the coolest thing. And then it has this incredible UI interface on my iPhone. And if payment, okay, time to pay your balance, and it's right there. It's connected. It's amazing. Conversely, student loans UI are not quite up to par. In fact, I wonder what percentage of that 90% just didn't know that was when they had to start paying again. They didn't get the letter. They didn't get notified. They didn't read the email. I'm really curious to see what that communication was and whether it was based on, debt load or just bad correspondence. So, but student debt's a really big deal. I think it eclipses credit card debt. It's a huge, huge business. And it'd be interested to look at some of those companies that handle those, and if those loans are fractioned, who do they go to, and who buys those on cents on the dollars, and to see what actions they're taking, because then we can kind of see if they're on the front lines. So if you watch some of these larger companies that are holding these huge balances, you can anticipate by their actions what they're expecting for consumer debt. And I think student loans is a really telltale sign, because you have these, it's probably, middle class, just stepping into the workforce. And that's probably a good place to look.
And I wanted to correct myself briefly. I mixed up the numbers. So it was almost 9 million borrowers that missed their first student loan payment.
Okay.
But
9
that
million?
was 9 million, and that was 40%.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that
Got
that
it.
missed
Still
the payment.
huge. Still
That's
huge.
still a lot. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
That's huge.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, thanks, Paulina. This is
Yeah,
great.
Paulina, this is great. Good stuff. I love it. It's good timing. It feels like things are bustling to me. I don't know. It just feels that way. Maybe I'm just happy. So no, this is good. Thanks for coming on, and enjoy. I want to get you out of here so you can go enjoy your family. So thanks for coming on. Have a great weekend, and however long you're staying there, enjoy. We'll see you maybe next Friday if you're back in town.
And make sure you check out Paulina on CNBC. She has incredible articles. She wrote something just on this topic, so go check her out. And if you like this, press like down below and comment. If you want us to chat about a topic, we'll dissect it for you, research it, and deliver it.
We can do it. All right, Paulina. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and the holiday. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye, Paulina.
Bye, Paulina.
Oh, there you are. Oh,
All
you.
right. You and the holidays, you had what, 20 people at your house? 20 family members?
20, yes. It was nuts.
All right. So are you going to list your address so we can join you next year?
No. I am having the hardest time logging in to my Google account. What do you think about that?
Google. Lex is about to short your company. He's having
I can't get in. Wrong
interface
password.
issues.
Try again. What's that all about, Mal?
I don't know. Paywalls. There's really good cartoons about that though. Really good.
There is?
Yeah. People I won't even go on, but people pretend to be Google, and they open their door and they go, "Who are you?" And they go, "I'm Lex." And they're like, "I don't believe you." It goes on and on. Really fun.
Oh my God. All right. Well, we should go. That was fun.
Great.
A light one, kind of light on the holiday week here. So kind of a dead week, I would say. What do you think about that?
I think it goes of, I think COVID really hit home with people, whatever people thought about what that was. I think family has become really important. Don't take it for granted. Hug your loved ones, even in the hard times.
Oh, you're giving all kinds of stuff today.
Yeah, make sure you tell everyone how you feel about them while they're here.
That's like important. That idea, and sadly I had a really good friend pass away recently, so that really stinks too. So you're right about that. I'm going to jump on that and say okay. Give a ding ding. So all right, Mal, you have a good weekend. I will see you next Wednesday on the Brew, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe a little bit. Right?
Absolutely.
All right, Mal.
Thanks,
have a good one. Bye.
Okay, bye.